Hello, I'm Vicki Collett, and I'm excited to welcome you to the book launch webinar for differentiated mentoring and coaching in education from pre-service teacher to expert practitioner. Today, July 22nd, 2022 is the first official day of publication. And I just need to celebrate a little bit that I finally get to hold this book in my hands. Writing it has been my gift to coaches and mentors, and I really hope that you'll love this book as much as I do. I've been living and thinking about the ideas in this book for years, and so it's just a joy to see it finally come to fruition. I also want to welcome some friends who are with me today to celebrate the launch of the book. They all reviewed the book, most of them reading through early drafts and providing valuable feedback. So special thanks to each of you for making the book what it is. So I'm going to have each of you go ahead and introduce yourself. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Bethany Holzman, and I am a graduate assistant, and Dr. Collett is my advisor. And prior to this, I was a mentor in an elementary school. And then prior to that, I was an intern in that same elementary school with Dr. Collett. And so I am happy to be here and happy to read the book.
Judy, yeah, unmute.
I'm Judy Fields. I recently obtained a PhD in curriculum instruction from the University of Arkansas, where Dr. Collett was my advisor. I'm currently a K-12 literacy specialist at the Northwest Education Service Cooperative in Farmington, Arkansas. And so we work with teachers and students from a 3-county area here in Arkansas. And so I've spent a lot of my career mentoring and coaching. So I'm excited about this book as well.
Okay, I don't know who's next. Is it me?
Yep.
Okay, all right. So I'm Dr. Angie Greiner, and I also recently, 2 years ago, got my PhD in literacy instruction at the University of Arkansas, and Dr. Collett was my mentor. I am now at the co-op where Judy Fields is, and I work with teachers on a daily basis, and I'm just excited to see this book come out. I've seen previews, and I'm just thrilled.
And hi, I am Karen Johnson. I am an assistant principal at school in Springdale, Arkansas, Southwest Junior High, and I was an instructional facilitator where I coach teachers. And in my current position, I still consider myself a coach of teachers. That's what I do. I coach teachers, and I have the pleasure of coaching coaches, my instructional facilitators. And I'm so excited for this book to come out. I'm actually going to use it with my instructional facilitators as I help coach them and as I coach teachers. So it is a fabulous read, and I'm super excited about it.
Okay, thanks for your kind words and for your introduction. So let's talk about this book. We'll just have a discussion, so y'all feel free to jump in. I want to start by asking, what's something you like or appreciate about the book?
I'll jump in. One thing that really caught my eye about it is the fact that I think when it comes to coaching, it has to be differentiated. Every teacher that you work with is a little bit different, and the coaching style has to be different. And so I like that that's kind of the foundation. I felt when I was reading it, that was a huge emphasis of this model, that it works for all teachers because it is differentiated for teachers. And so that was a selling point for me.
I
Okay,
also
go ahead.
appreciated it from a mentor's perspective as a relatively new mentor, because there were things in there, coaching moves that I could relate to, but then also things that I could definitely improve upon. And I can start immediately with the tips in the book and the explanation in the book. And that felt good, because sometimes it can be really intimidating to read professional books and feel like you have to change everything that you're doing. But I think that me, and then probably every other mentor, no matter their experience, they can find something in the book to improve right then. And I think that's great.
I totally agree with Bethany and Karen about the practicality of the text. It's very readable. It's not something that you have to sit down and decipher. The examples are real life. They're not contrived. And so it's easy to pick up on situations and think about different ways that you can handle that. Another thing I love about the book is that it is differentiated. And when it comes to adult learning, I think a lot of times that has been overlooked. We hear a lot about differentiating for students in the classroom, but teacher learning needs to be differentiated as well. And that's another reason I'm so excited about.
Yeah, I'm just going to echo what all of you have said already. One of the things being new to mentoring over the last couple of years, and really working one-on-one with teachers, is this, just looking through the drafts was incredibly helpful for me. Because each one of those vignettes had like a running dialogue of what was going on between the mentor and the teacher. And I found that extremely helpful, just to get those different perspectives that sometimes that we miss when we go in. We have one thing in mind to do, and we sometimes miss some of those little things that are so very important when we mentor teachers.
Yeah, the little things are so important.
Mhm.
Thanks all of you for mentioning some things that you found useful, and hopefully other readers will find those things useful and maybe some other things as well. In the book discussion today, I'll mostly use the word coach to describe anyone who offers support to improve instruction. And I'll use the word teacher to talk about those at any stage of their learning journey in the profession, from pre-service teacher to experienced. But you can use the words mentor or coach or instructional facilitator, an intern or teacher, whatever fits your experience. And just to give a little background, for Bethany, for example, a mentor is someone who's working with a pre-service teacher. And for Karen, an instructional facilitator could play a variety of roles, but one of the primary roles is often as an instructional coach. So just a little bit of background there. Okay, the book focuses on 5 coaching moves and how choosing and using the moves can be a guide for differentiated coaching. So I want to spend the rest of our time together just diving into those moves. Let's start by talking about modeling, which is the most supportive coaching move. So the first question is, when have you used modeling in your work with teachers?
I'll jump in and answer that first because I know exactly what my answer is. The modeling that has really dominated my practice is just going into the teacher's classroom and modeling with their students. That seems to be the most powerful thing that I have done, is for the teacher to be able to see me, live with their own students. And then the thing that really just empowers that process is being able to debrief with the teacher through questioning and just having a conversation about what they saw.
Yeah.
I'll add that I think modeling is that critical piece. So like you said, that's the very first thing, and it's critical to coaching. I was actually talking to a teacher today, and he was saying, we hear about all these great strategies and they're explained to us, and we're taught all about it. He said, but sometimes we're never given examples of how that actually looks in a classroom. And so that piece, that's that missing piece sometimes, is that modeling piece, and it is critical. And so I'm glad that it's part of your moves, because it is one of the most important moves, and it definitely impacts teachers. And from conversations with teachers, that they crave that, they need that. That's exactly what that teacher was speaking to today.
Nice.
I see the same thing too, working with interns, pre-service teachers, because especially when they first get in the classroom, they're new to your class, they're new to you, they're new to the students, and they often are lacking confidence in what it's going to look like to teach them even simple things, even if you have a curriculum that you're following. And so modeling at the beginning to help them build their confidence and just have an idea of what teaching in your classroom could look like is a big piece.
Yeah.
I guess I should say something, and I have lots to say.
Don't ever feel like everybody has to answer, but if you have something to say, go ahead.
But I will say that when you go in and you mentor for a teacher, you're building a relationship
Yeah.
with that teacher. You're opening a door there because really you're kind of opening yourself up.
Yeah.
You're exposing yourself, you're right, because this is a classroom with students that you are not seeing every day. And so you're going in there and you're putting yourself out in front and letting that teacher watch you. But it's also very empowering because there's a lot of teachers that want to do new things and try out new approaches, but yet until they see someone else do it, that they can do it with their kids, it doesn't get done. So I love the modeling part of it. It keeps me in the classroom, and just want that one foot with those kids. So
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That's something I really relate to. You got to stay fresh in the profession, and modeling gives you a chance to do that as well. So a follow-up question on that. What are some ways that we can increase the impact of modeling?
Something that I have found to be very, very helpful with when I'm modeling for an intern is to have them watch for something specific. So a lot of the times I noticed that if I just say, all right, I'm gonna teach this lesson, I'd like you to watch it, or even just teaching without specifically saying, hey, I'm modeling this for you. The interns, when we talked about it later, would tend to talk about things that they're already good at, or things that they're very, very nervous about and aren't really ready for, they don't feel they're ready for, or they might actually not be ready for. And so when I give them something to actually look at, I can say, hey, I'd like you to watch how I respond to a kid that doesn't give what we consider a correct answer. And then that allows them they can watch the rest, but that focus is important. And then when we're talking afterward, it gives us something specific that we can discuss so that we can actually drive the practice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, Bethany. And one of the things that I do when I model a strategy is I give time for the teacher to reflect on what I've done. And one of the questions on the reflection sheet that I give them is, everybody's different. So you've watched me do this strategy. What is it? How can that fit into your teaching style and your comfort zone in using that strategy? So it gives them a little more time other than just that moment of watching me model, to kind of see how they can incorporate that into their own class instruction.
Yeah, and I agree with everything that they just said. I think in that little, the summary piece, when you kind of go over your moves in the book, you mentioned, I like that word conversation that you put in there. And I think that just remembering that it is a part of a conversation and that there needs to be that debrief time, but thinking about what exactly does that conversation piece look like that is going to drive instruction? Because it is about improving instruction. Modeling is a piece of that. And then pairing that conversation that helps bridge the modeling to improved instruction.
The only thing that I would like to add to what has been said so far is I think it's important to really be able to have a conversation with the teacher before the model lesson. And not only, like Bethany mentioned, for the teacher knowing what to look for, but also allowing the teacher some input on what they want to look for. Because, usually they're going to know, something that they want to work on, whether it's pedagogy or content, and having them be part of that process of planning that, I think, is very helpful.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much for your insight. Really, really important ideas there. So let's move on to thinking about making recommendations. When my teachers want a recommendation,
Well, I think when my teachers want a recommendation,
yeah.
they're only going to be able to take one when they feel safe. And so, like what Angie mentioned before about the relationship, I mean, I don't think that part can be overstated.
Yeah.
If they feel like that they're in a supportive relationship and you talk with them and they become invested in the process, then giving that feedback uh, is going to be a lot easier, because if they identify what they want to look for, then and identify their own area of growth, then when that feedback is given, it's something that they planned, instead of something that you just go on in and just kind of throw out there as a piece of advice for improvement.
Yeah.
I think often it happens when an intern or teacher lacks confidence or lacks knowledge of how to do something.
I also think adding to kind of what you were saying, when they lack the knowledge or the confidence, I think it also comes with a feeling of the efficacy. I think like when teachers feel that they are the reason that learning is happening, and then they're reaching out for those recommendations, part of that, like that agency or that collective, or not even collective, but just teacher efficacy piece becomes important when teachers start reaching out or wanting those recommendations paired with a safe environment. So they believe they have an impact on learning, paired with this is a safe place for me to get some new ideas and recommendations.
Love that. Okay. Oh, go ahead, Angie.
Okay. I was going to say that I usually always start with something positive, to something that they've done that, even if it's a small, something that they don't see as very important, but that I can recognize that it's very important to the overall rapport between the teacher and the student in the classroom environment. And then just one thing that maybe they could work on, not a list of items. Just give them one thing that, and ask them if, is that something that they might could work on? Is that something that they're interested in working on? And take it from there.
Again, great ideas. Here's the follow-up question. How does listening help you make better recommendations? How does listening to the teacher help you make better recommendations?
Well, I have a tendency to think I know what needs to happen. So that's one thing I appreciate about your book, and just about other things that I read on that is helping me refocus to, pay attention, Judy, listen to what you're being told. And so when I will just listen, and let my whoever I'm mentoring or coaching, whatever, just talk, many times just the listening, they'll kind of just discover what you wanted them to know anyway. And so in that listening, just, being supportive, being an engaged listener, being a thoughtful listener, not just listening with your ears, but with your eyes and with your heart, and paying attention to what's going on with that person, so that you can really support them and help them grow.
And I think with coaching, we always have to remember that it's not our job to go in and change anybody, but that we're coaching them to be reflective and to self-reflect and to figure out how to make changes and want changes within themselves. I think that has to be a part of coaching. And you can't get there if you're not listening to what they need and what's important to them. And so I think I love that is part of what you emphasize and what you promote in your book, is listening.
Yeah.
Because coaching is not us trying to change teachers. It's us helping teachers see that they're how they impact students and how they can improve that, and the desire to want to do that and strategies to do that.
Yeah.
I think too, this is going to be a little bit about questioning also, which I know we're not too there yet, but I can distinctly remember having a conversation with an intern where I was questioning her and like trying to guide her that way. And what I was mostly receiving in answers were stares. So like not really answering and not giving me anything really. And I was feeling frustrated, but then having a conversation with Dr. Collett and learning from that, I kind of dropped back to the recommendations. And so that tended to work better. And to me, it was like I wanted to push through, I guess, because I thought she was ready, but I wasn't really listening to what the intern felt she was ready for. And I think that plays a huge part as well.
Yeah, so you foreshadowed our next step. Let's talk about asking questions, which I think should be the most frequently used move in the model, and it gets used all the way through. No matter what other moves you're also doing, I think you're always asking questions if you're a productive coach, if you're an effective coach. So this one's kind of self-deprecating question, so don't answer it if you don't want to. But do you sometimes make recommendations when you should be asking questions? This is kind of the opposite of the scenario that Bethany just gave. Do you sometimes make recommendations when you should be asking questions? And then the second part of that question is, how do you know? None of you ever do that.
Okay,
Yes.
I'll jump in. I mean,
Okay.
I'm okay with self-deprecation. So, especially in the position that I have now, many times I will get questions, and instead of asking a question to elicit some sort of response that's going to be meaningful, I will start saying something and trying to solve a problem or give an answer, and then I realize, okay, no, that's not what was needed. That is not helpful. And I know when the person kind of goes, and it's like, okay, well, that's not what they wanted to hear. So then that's when I have to be paying attention. It's like, okay, well, tell me what you think about that, or,
Yeah.
tell me more. So, help me understand, instead of just trying to pop back, with some kind of answer that may or may not be helpful. And then also when I've just modeled for teachers in their classrooms,
Mm.
and they'll ask me specific questions about whether it's content, pedagogy, student behavior, whatever. I really have to watch myself so that I don't just respond with, well, I would, and just because I would doesn't mean that you should, or it's even a good thing. So yes, I have had to, stop, and put myself in neutral and then reverse and kind of go back and try to clean up some of the disaster that I almost created. Yes, I totally, I totally love that that's, that we can talk about that and be honest as people who coach.
Yeah.
And I think one of my telltale signs that I'm doing that is when or the teacher that I'm working with, or the coach says, okay, so you want me to, and I'm like, well, I need to step back because they're hearing me they're hearing me say, you need to do blank, blank, and blank, and that is not coaching. And so, but that's my first hint that I'm not asking questions when I should be, is when they start trying to figure out what I want them to do.
Oh, so good. I love that, Karen. Thank you.
I think it happens a lot too, in unplanned situations, kind of like Judy was saying, like I have a lot of thoughts in my own brain about how I would do things. And so if I'm asked like on the fly about something, or if we're talking about something, I am very quick to give my opinion and my advice, whether it is warranted or not. And I think that when we have conversations that are planned, I'm able to more hold back on that, because going into it, I think to myself, this isn't about me. What can I do? And so I would like that to be somewhere that I work on, where like anytime something is brought to my attention, I need to be able to know, hey, do I need to answer this, or do I need to go deeper?
Yeah. Okay, next question. When are your coaching questions most authentic?
I think if it's something that I personally don't feel like I have all the answers for, so something that I'm genuinely interested in, or really have never thought about the way that it's being done, I ask questions about why, like what was your planning process and things like that. So when I'm genuinely most curious and interested and want to know more about something that's happening.
I'm going to
Yeah.
echo Bethany on that for sure, especially going through COVID.
Mm,
And a lot of times situations have come up where I'm a little stumped as well, or I can tell that the teacher is way stressed. And so then the questions, it gets more into that, what can I do to help you? What do you see as something that I can, I can help you with? So it kind of turns a little bit and it gets a little more personal as far as the questioning goes. So
Any other thoughts about when your coaching questions are most authentic?
I'll just speak.
I totally agree with Bethany. I mean, my questions become authentic when I need to ask the question because I don't know. And when we're really kind of on a mission to solve something or to dig in or investigate it, that's when I become truly authentic.
Nice.
I try to jump in. Sorry, I keep talking over people. But I think I'm most authentic when I'm being an intentional listener.
Mm.
I had to be really intentional about it. And then that's when I ask the very best questions.
Those are such important answers. And it's so important to be an authentic listener. And then your questions do come from that place of curiosity. Okay, the last two coaching moves in the model, the ones that provide the least scaffolding, are affirming and offering praise. So since you've all used the model, you'll remember that the distinction that I make between these two is whether or not the teacher is really looking to you to confirm their decision or practice. If yes, if they're looking to you to confirm what they're doing or planning to do, then you're affirming. If they're really not looking for it, then you're praising. So I'm going to lump those two together in our discussion since it's the teacher that's kind of the linchpin on that one. What do you think are some benefits of affirming or praising teachers?
I know that I, as an intern and as a teacher and as an everything, really appreciate when someone tells me that I am doing something well and when they really, really mean it. And it builds my confidence and keeps me believing that I can do what I'm doing. And I think that that is very important. And a lot of the time, if we're mentoring or coaching someone, they're looking for that confidence also. Maybe they had it and they lost it, or maybe they haven't had it yet. And I think that affirming and praising, when it's done authentically and honestly and specifically, can be very helpful in boosting that confidence.
And I keep saying like every move is like one of the most critical moves, but I think really believe that coaching is the relationship has to be there. I think, and it has to be a safe spot. I think this is part of how we build that. They have to know that we value them and we see them, like we see the great things that they're doing. And so I think that's just part of being able to be an effective coach is the foundation of being an effective coach. And part of coaching is helping teachers see what they're doing really well and how to strengthen even those things. And so I think all that ties in together to make that a critical move that has to exist. And I almost think personally in every coaching session, that has to be at least a little tiny piece of it somewhere in there.
Yeah, I think Angie mentioned that already, that she always tries to point out something that went well if it's a debrief conversation. What else do you want?
I think it's important to think about that affirming and praising, because regardless of the person you're coaching, regardless of their level of experience, if you're trying something new, and that's your focus, then as you're planning and as you're going forth in that, it's important to be affirmed because teachers don't want to be wrong. They don't want to do the wrong things. They want to feel like, okay, I'm going the right way. But then also, we get focused on what we're learning, what we're trying to do new, um, and focusing on that. And sometimes in reflecting, we think, oh, well, I didn't.
Mhm.
And we tend
Yeah.
to find a lot of fault with ourselves. And so I think it's very, very helpful to find that element that needs to be praised. And just to say, well, I noticed when you, and they always just light up, because it's like maybe they know they do it, and then maybe they don't know they do it.
Yeah.
But just kind of putting that in there, it just bolsters them further.
Um, as a classroom teacher for 30 years, evaluations and walkthroughs, that was like my top anxiety. It didn't matter how many years experience I had, how many years I taught a particular subject. As soon as that person comes in the classroom, it would just completely stress me out. And one of the things that I make sure that I do is when I do walkthroughs, even if it's for 10 minutes, I leave a sticky note or a note of something that I've seen, and I can find something to praise a teacher about. I can either affirm that they are maybe incorporating something from the science of reading in their instruction, or it may be their rapport, or it could be their questioning technique, whatever it is, but there's always something good that I leave behind because I know how that felt. You kind of feel like you're being judged in a way, and nobody likes to have that kind of a feeling. And so if I am affirming something or I'm praising them for something, that helps me to put my foot in the door for saying, and since you did so great, I was wondering if, and then that can lead to them growing as a teacher and adding something else into their toolkit.
Absolutely. I love what you just said. Every word of what you just said. As you're thinking that it's almost the key that unlocks the coaching, the further coaching, the additional coaching that will occur later. And something else you said that made me think of like actual teachers that I'm coaching. Once I get in that habit of always leaving that affirmation or praise, and then feedback as well, like things, other, recommendations or questions. If I don't do that, they ask for it. Like I've noticed that little pattern. Like that's something that I can't leave out now. Like once that's part of, they want that too. And so if I accidentally forget, they'll text me and say, "Hey, like what'd you see when you were in that class?" or whatever, however they phrase it. But it opens the door for more coaching. I love what you said though. Sorry, I just wanted to pop back in because I just loved it so much.
I remember specifically my first year teaching, just stressed every day, all day, basically making sure the kids got home on time and all that. But the vice principal at the time, anytime she came in the classroom, there was always a sticky note, and I have those sticky notes still. So that's a big thing that you're doing.
Yeah, for sure. So in the book, I kind of name that practice the good things happening email. And so anybody who wants to look at that section in the book can. And I think Karen and Angie made me think too about the section called praising all along the way. Like praise is not just something that happens at the end of a coaching cycle. It's something that happens and should happen. My belief and my research suggests that praising should happen all along the way. And that's maybe one difference between the model, which is called the Gradual Increase of Responsibility Model, or GIR Model for Mentoring and Coaching. One difference between that model and some other coaching models is that some other models suggest that coaches should not praise, which I remember when I read that as a coach, I was like, I don't know if I can keep my mouth shut and not say the nice things that I'm seeing. Like, that's not how I am. And I loved that Bethany started by saying something about as a teacher, as a mentor, as a everything, I think is what you said, Bethany, that like as a human being, it just helps us feel good, right? When people notice the good things that are happening. So that's definitely a difference with this coaching model. And I think it's authentic. Like when the model came from watching what effective coaches do, and actually they do praise. So let's do it. What cautions, just because some models say don't praise, what cautions do you have about offering praise? And Bethany, you touched on these a little bit already, but do you want to kind of reaffirm? There's that affirm word again, but reaffirm the things that you mentioned about cautions for praising.
Sure. I think it's very important to be authentic. Kids, adults, everyone can tell when you are and are not being authentic. And I think that can hurt the trust relationship that everyone has been talking about. When you're not authentic, people pick up on that. And then also I said honest, but something else to be cautious about is praising something that isn't really best practice or isn't really best for kids, because those things that you're praising, if you do have that trusting relationship, is probably something that the teacher or intern is going to grab hold of and keep doing in their practice, which is a great tool for us, but it can also be a little dangerous if you are praising things that are not actually praiseworthy.
Mm. And one other thing you mentioned before, Bethany, was being specific. Does anybody want to say something about specificity with praise?
Well, just telling a teacher, "Oh, you did a great job. I really enjoyed that lesson." I mean, that's, that's really not helpful. And on some level, I think it might almost be inauthentic. I mean, you got to find something specific to say. Like I noticed when, whatever student was doing such and such that you said, I mean, just very specific, like so that the teacher or whoever you're coaching knows that you were watching,
Yeah.
that you were engaged, and that you did care and pick up on what was going on in there. Whether it's, like, oh, if a student is off task, and based on how that teacher might redirect them, saying specifically, I noticed that when you redirected this student, saying, I think it needs to be really specific on some action that occurred while you were watching.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It kind of shows, sorry, that the choices they made a difference. And I think that that's important for most people, but especially people who choose to be educators.
Yeah, love that. And I just have to say that at a time when so many teachers are choosing to leave the profession that they love for a variety of reasons, that praising and affirming can make a difference there. I truly believe that teachers need to have the good things that they're doing noticed, and that's one of the things that'll keep them in the profession. Any final thoughts you want to add about anything? It doesn't have to be about affirming and praising. It can be about anything we've talked about so far.
I'll say that I think the steps are easy to implement. It's not something that that you have to study up on and read 3 or 4 books of coaching in order to grasp, and they're authentic. And I personally can't wait to get my copy. So I've seen all the different chapters, but I want the whole thing in my hand. So, just bravo for an excellent book. It's going to be very helpful to a lot of people.
I know from the part that I read, one thing that I really appreciate about the way that you composed, I guess, Dr. Follett, is that it's very it's very leading. Like for someone like me, I can read it and it's leading me to a spot without like being confrontational, and it's like openly challenging. like the book itself is a model of how you can coach.
Mhm. Thank you.
And it feels very supportive. It feels like you're going to be very supportive for whoever you're coaching, but it also feels very supportive for you as the coach, I thought.
Good. Well, I think Karen, oh, no, there, you're muted off. Karen, go ahead.
Yes, I had some technical difficulties. I did
Oh,
not hear
there you are.
I heard the very end of the question where you could say you could speak to anything about,
Yep.
but I'm not quite sure the question that we're answering. But
Any final thoughts?
any final thoughts? Oh, okay. I can do that. So I'm kind of circling back to the front, but I think that the samples that you give, it's practical. And that's why I want to not only use it for myself, but why I am also hoping that others that I work with will use this book as well, which I'll be like sharing it with them like crazy as soon as I get my copy, what I'm super excited about. But and I just think that it's practical. You give examples, and if I'm stuck with somebody, like I found that even after you share, like when I got the rough draft version, I found that when I got stuck later, like months later, and I got stuck on like coaching somebody, I kind of went back to that book to just say, what do I need? Like, what do I need? I know there's something in here. There's a sample I can see. I can reread one of the moves. And so I think it's just a very practical book that you don't have to read. It's not take hours upon hours to get some good practice in there. So I'm excited. I'm going to be sharing it with others, encouraging them to buy the book. I am thankful. Like you said, I think you said it was a gift. And that's how I feel like this is a gift to coaching.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for your kind words. I hope the ideas that we've shared today and the ideas in the book will help readers and coaches, whatever role they're playing, clarify or expand their coaching moves and think more intentionally about how to use them. And so for those who are viewers right now, I invite you to find out more on my blog. It's called My Coach's Couch. If you Google that or go to my website, which is my name, you'll find it. And also, of course, you can find out more about all these moves in the brand new book. Oh, hold it up one more time because I'm so excited to have it in my hands. The brand new book, Differentiated Mentoring and Coaching in Education, which is available from Teachers College Press. So happy coaching, and thanks again to all my friends for joining me. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.